How's it going, everybody? Thanks for stopping by for a new episode of the Preorder Roundup. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't really recall what was announced in November, but what I do know is that I saved like 100 tabs while trying to get all the information for this video. So, as always, let's start with the pop-up parades. Nothing super interesting this time around, if, you were to ask me, but I do find these pretty funny. The worldwide after-party versions of Eren and Reiner, just to, celebrate the finale of the anime. And all they did here was take the original pop-up parades for both of them and give them a beer mug so they can down a pint with the boys. That's pretty much it. They are the smaller variants, and they're 4,800 yen. They are the exact same price, but they are exclusive, so it might be a little bit harder, to get your hands on these if you want them, but they're pretty much the exact same thing. A funny concept, though. It did honestly make me laugh a little bit when I saw these two go up for pre-order. But yeah, outside of these two, everything else was pretty standard fare. We had Gother from the 7 Deadly Sins. Nothing too extravagant here. He's just doing his peace sign. Looks good, but, standard stuff, right? Hajime Hinata from Danganronpa 2. I don't really like this one. I feel like his skin is super pale looking in these first few photos. It might just be the lighting. I think the later photos look a little bit better. So hopefully this is more what the figure looks like. But even then, I feel like the art style is reminiscent of Danganronpa, but I feel like it's missing the mark slightly. We got the Albedo dress version this month. Now, this is her second pop-up parade. The first one was the traditional white dress that you're most likely familiar with, but I gotta say, I think this looks a little bit better. Even outside of, like, the outfit that she's wearing, I just think her face is prettier here, and there's something about this sculpt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most pop-up parades aren't going for, like, a sexy angle, you know what I mean? But it definitely feels like that's the focus point here. I don't know if it's the dress's fault, but her chest looks gigantic. I don't know if that's the canonical size, but it's certainly an eye catcher, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I do think this one looks pretty good for 4,800 yen. We also got the two Ayakashi Triangle girls, Suzu Kanade, as well as Matsuri Kazumaki, both in their swimsuits. Kind of defeats the point that I just made about Albedo, considering how much skin is being shown in both of these pop-up parades. So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, but hey, we all make mistakes. It's all good. I feel like we've seen these two so many times at this point, so I don't really feel like I need to add anything else here. They look cute. I got no problems with them. Next up, where is our next tab? We had Tracer, because we need a pop-up parade of Tracer, 7 years after the first game came out. That's the best time to make a budget figure for a character, if you ask me. Especially considering that, like, I don't know, people don't like Blizzard these days. They're still very popular, of course, but they've certainly made some enemies over the past few years. So, But hey, if you like Tracer, if you could separate yourself from all that controversy and whatnot, then 4,800 yen figure Tracer, not bad. Looks pretty good. Sayori from Doki Doki Literature Club, looking super Genki, very cute pose. I think they pulled it straight from the game's key art. I'm sure they did the exact same thing for Monica. I don't remember if the other two girls have pop-up parades yet. I know they have Nendoroids, which is kind of crazy. Like, they have a full set of Nendoroids for this series, and we're most likely going to get the full set of pop-up parades. Like, you go back a couple of years, and something like this would just not happen, but times are changing, and I know Doki Doki is, like, insanely popular. Oh yeah, I forgot about these. So for our last 3 pop-up parades of the month, we got 3 figures for Hunter x Hunter. Netero, Pito, and Meruem, which I think puts us at 8 for the series, which is kind of wild. Out of nowhere, Good Small Company just started showing immense love for this series. Now I get it, not everybody's gonna care about pop-up parades. Personally, I only have 2, and I like them, but I know that this might not be super exciting for some people, but you gotta give them credit when the rest of the industry are just cowards, and nobody wants to make figures from this series for some reason. Unless it's Gon and Killua, and maybe Hisoka, but we're getting some other characters here. And your only other option is to go like the resin route, whether it be third party or first party, because I know some are licensed, like I think Figurama makes some cool ones. But regardless, for 4,800 yen, I feel like there is a sufficient amount of detail in these figures, and the character accuracy is pretty good too. Nothing to really complain about in that regard. Why does his ass so big, though? And why does his legs kind of look like, ball sacks? He's a weird bug guy. I get it. That's a bonus for you right there. As far as Pito, I don't think they've ever gotten a figure, so that's just kind of cool for itself, right? Like, that's awesome. And I think it's a nice looking one as well. If they ever made Bisky, I feel like I would be very compelled to jump into these figures, like get Gon, Killua, and Bisky. That would be my preferred purchase, but I don't know if she's popular enough. I just like that group of characters during Greed Island, so I'm hoping for it. It could happen at this rate, but I don't know. Anyway, that's it for the pop-up parades. Alright, moving on to scale figures now. From Good Smile Company, we had a re-release of Mikasa from Shingeki. Now, unfortunately, this figure saw a dramatic increase in price. I don't have the original price in front of me, but it's around like 8,000 to 9,000 yen more, which is kind of ridiculous. Usually they're a little bit better at pricing their re-releases. This is more so like Mega House pricing, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So, if you want the DX version of Mikasa, it's going to cost you 25,000 yen. And the DX version comes with this like special base of a rooftop. I think this is the way to go if you want this figure, but you could opt out. You don't need that rooftop base, and you could save yourself like 3,000 yen. I just don't think that price difference is enough to justify not having that, base included. Because I think it adds a lot to the composition. It places the figure in the world of Shingeki. It feels important if you ask me. So, I don't know, for 3,000 yen more, you might as well just get the base. But money's tight these days, I totally understand. Great looking figure, based around Season 1, the earlier stuff, not, later on in Season 4 and whatnot. But yeah, don't really love how expensive this figure is now. Eris made version from Blue Archive, a 1/7 scale for 19,000 yen, which personally, I think is a fantastic price. Though I do feel like I need to spend a little bit more time comparing these new figure prices with the re-releases, because if you're new or you're not really familiar with this stuff, it might sound confusing, it might be weird, where I think this figure for 19,000 yen is good, whereas that Mikasa figure for 22 or 25, depending on the base or not, is bad. And it's not that it's bad. If that figure was new, I think 25,000 yen would be a great price. But because it's a re-release, there's a bit of, say, expectations in the pricing, because they get to skip a couple of steps in terms of just like producing the figure for a second time. And there's so much that goes into figure manufacturing that I can't possibly cover. Truthfully, I don't even know every step of the way there, because obviously I don't work for any of these companies and I'm not an insider. But even just some of the more obvious stuff, like hiring a sculptor to make the figure in the first place. I don't think there's such things as royalties when it comes to re-releases, or designing the box for the figure. If they're going to use the same box, then they don't have to worry about paying somebody to make a cool box for the figure. It's already done. They're just going to use the same box, right? So those costs are no longer an issue. And that's kind of why I feel like those figures, when they're re-released, shouldn't cost as much. They should cost a little bit more because the price of materials is going up, unfortunately. But I don't know, I just feel like 25,000 yen from, say, I think I opened the page here. It initially was 13,700. Like, that's nearly 10,000 yen. I feel like that's quite a lot, even though it's been almost 10 years. But we've seen plenty of re-releases where it wasn't that big of an increase at all. In fact, I think the Gattaca figure was like 3,000 yen increased. If it's on the front page, I'll just go here right now. Let's, 14,000 to 18,000, so 4,000 yen. This is a very intricate figure. This thing is gigantic. I don't know. It just felt a little bit out there for that Mikasa figure to cost as much as it did. But anyway, let's talk about Eris. She's adorable. I don't remember if I said that initially, but I think that's pretty obvious. Her skin is so pale. I'm not very familiar with this character, but she is so goddamn pale. Like, her skin is almost the same color as her leggings, which is kind of crazy. But it works with her blue eyes, just like that contrast makes her eyes look a little bit prettier to me. Her hair is so goddamn long, very voluminous, lovely sculpts. And I just think, like, the energy behind this one, she just looks like she loves her job. The salute, the way she's holding onto the broom, she's stepping on it, it's so fun. I really do like this figure. I don't have plans to buy this one, but because she is so cheap, I almost want to, just so I could place her next to my Lena Bell Roll figure. Like, they're both made, so thematically it would work, but these two character designs could not be any different, so I just think it would be kind of a funny visual. But yeah, cute figure. I like the little details. Her halo looks great. A little charm on the broom, the wood down here, and even her base looks nice as well. So yeah, a good one for a good deal. Okay, next up from S-Fire, we had two Jujutsu Kaisen figures, one for Megumi and one for Nobara. We've seen both of these two painted before. In fact, we've seen these exact photos before, but now we have the price tags of 26,000 yen, and I think Megumi is 28,000. I kind of want to talk about Nobara first, just because it's just an instance of like a figure that looks so goddamn cool, and then one detail just ruins it, and it's her face, and that's a really important detail. Maybe you don't see that issue like I do, but to me, as somebody who only really watches the anime, and I'm caught up too, I just don't think this looks like her. So as nice as the sculpt is, the gigantic nail piercing the demon's mouth and the blood is just splattering all behind her, it's sick. I love the way they paint the clothes on these S-Fire figures as well. I think they do a really good job coloring and using effect pieces, but Nobara looks strange, you know? She just looks strange, and that's not what I'm used to seeing Nobara as. As for Megumi, I do think this one is pretty good. I like this one a bit more, mostly because of the feral-ass looking wolf. I don't remember his name. It's like the Divine Wolves or something like that. Divine Dog, there we go. Either way, works for me. But you also get these frogs coming out of the gooey shadows and whatnot. I love them. I don't, again, really love Megumi's face. I feel like he's looked better on other figures. And I don't know, I get the pose, but it also kind of looks like he's about to serve in volleyball. You know, it's not lost on me. He's doing the hand sign to summon the animals. Totally understand. But still kind of a funny pose to me, because there's a bunch of different hand signs you could possibly be doing here. But I guess this is the specific one for one of these down here. Either way, a cool looking figure. If the face was like tuned up a little bit, I feel like this would be really great. If it was a little bit cheaper, then this one would be a little bit more enticing. But as it stands, this is one of the more expensive S-Fire figures in the JJK line. But it's understandable because of the Divine Dog, his texturing, the frogs down here. Like, it might not be as large of a figure as Nobara, but the blood splats are probably a little bit simpler to sculpt, or at least that's my guess. Grim Aloe Belly Dance version from Bomber Girl by Wing. This one is going to cost you just about 30,000 yen, and she's a 1/6 scale, so a little big, but also very expensive. I will say, because you could take off her veil, I think this figure looks a lot better than it initially did. I also kinda like the translucent hair. Normally I don't, but I think transitioning it into a pink with that gradation is kind of nice. I'm not sure if it'll look as nice as just like pure white hair that the other figures have, but we'll see. Yeah, I just never really liked these metal tassels. I think they're made of iron. That's what it said down here when I was looking at it. To me, they're just a little bit too chunky, a little bit too thick. I feel like it kind of obscures the figure's design a little bit too much for me. But at that point, the figure's going to look like twice as naked if you take all of that away. And maybe that's a plus for some people, but for me, I just feel like they should have done something else. But at the same time, it's just the design that they went with in the game. So it's not really Wing's fault. I'm just personally not the biggest fan of these Arabian style outfits that they're wearing. And the colors as well, I don't know what it is, but I feel like this shade of like hot pink is very garish. I don't love the way this figure is painted. Not that it's a bad paint job, it's really just the colors. So it's just a bunch of unfortunate things for me that doesn't really come together to be something that I really care about. Like I said earlier though, I like the fact that you could take off the veil because they clearly put a lot of effort into her mouth sculpt, just like the depth of it, the tongue sculpt, right? Her eyes look really good. Yeah, it's really on point for Grim Aloe. This totally feels in character. And this is a total deviant figure. Even the way they sculpted the armpit is definitely trying to lure some people in, you know what I mean? Like, that is some attention to detail there for the specific audience that wants it. Even her stomach looks pretty damn good. Look out for this one in, when does this come out? Where does that say? In June of next year. Not too far away. If you're a fan of Goblin Slayer, then Fat Company is helping you out here. They're re-releasing their High Elf Archer as well as Priestess. So, Priestess is going to cost you 21,800 yen, and the Archer is going to cost you 22,800 yen. I don't think this is a dramatic increase in price. These figures aren't super old, so that would make sense. But if you missed out the first time, now you got a second chance. Fat Company is also putting up their Florence figure from Girls Frontline, a 1/7 scale for 30,000 yen. You know, sometimes I really wonder about these price points, like, is there enough going on to really justify it? The details, the size, the paint, the shading, or is there like an additional tax added on top because the character design is a little lewd or sadistic in this case, right? Like if there's something fetishy about it, they're gonna make you pay a little bit more because they know, as somebody who's into this kind of stuff, that you'll pay more for it. And I do feel like this is a case where that is totally what's going on here. But I do feel like with Florence, there is actually a lot to appreciate in this design. For instance, her wild hair sculpt kind of looks like bed hair. Some people like the term sex hair. I don't know if it's the same thing. Kind of sounds like it to me. But either way, just having to sculpt all of these individual strands, I think just makes for a more visually interesting hair sculpt, and I like it quite a bit. On top of that, you have this, you know, sadistic looking face, the heart eyes, the fact that they actually sculpted her mouth very similar to Grim Aloe, where you get to see her tongue, you get a little bit of depth in there if you want, and the fangs looks fantastic. Also a little bit of lip gloss, maybe, at least that's what it looks like on this photo. So everything from the neck up already looks fantastic. I'm not sure if Fat Company's quality is going to match this, but we have to wait and see, right? But yeah, there's a lot of like little details just like hidden about, right? Like the first time I saw this figure, I did not see the syringes down here. And doubly so, I didn't see the IV bags around her waist. Like that just was totally lost on me. Very easy to miss if you're just kind of like looking at it and then moving on with your life. But yeah, there's a lot here. You know, just like the way she's wearing her clothes too, the jacket's kind of coming off. You get to see her shoulders a little bit, the asymmetrical design of the dress, the perkiness of the character. That's probably like 10 bucks right there for you, because you know, people want that. Also her legs, like man, this curve right here. But yeah, a lot of like little stuff. Her tag over here, the buttons are kind of interesting. Of course, she's on that like weird moving table. That's surely like 50 bucks on its own. Imaginary number I just kind of pulled out of nowhere, but you know, it's got this like futuristic look. Kind of wish there was a little bit more mechanical detail that you could see, but it's really only like these portions right here, just like opening up. So yeah, not really sure if this all equates to about 30,000 yen for the average consumer, but for somebody who really likes this character design, they might be down for it. Here's one we saw not too long ago, Izuku Midoriya Deku version from Proof, a 1/7 scale for just about 29,000 yen. Another expensive one. Honestly, any figure that's around 30,000 yen, I'm probably going to say that, so I should probably just stop. But I do like this one. I like the concept behind it. I like how energetic it is. I really don't like this face, but it comes with a separate one that feels so much more fitting for an action-y shonen character that's in a very dynamic pose, destroying the environment around him, bunch of energy sparks and wind flowing about, right? It just fits so much more that I feel like you could just ditch the first faceplate entirely. And honestly, I kind of wish they did, because then you probably would have saved like 20 bucks, or at least like 15. From Solar Rain, we had Kuruge-chan, a horse girl, an original character. This artist, I believe, made another horse girl that Solar Rain did. It was the poker horse. She was very cute. I like that figure a lot. Probably a little bit more than this one, but they're totally different designs. This one is only going to cost you 20,000 yen, and she's a 1/7 scale, which is a fantastic price if you ask me. I just really like how big her jacket is. I also have to mention that she comes with 2 faceplates. I don't even really have a preference here. I think both are very fitting. Both are very cute. So I think it's just 2 good options for you. I don't feel like you need both, but it's nice that both are good. But yeah, just a really pleasant design overall. I like the fact that her nails are painted. She's got this like big staff on her back. I'm not sure if she's magical, but maybe so. Her knee socks are asymmetrical because why not? That's fun. The cute buns in her hair, I don't know. I think this is a really nice design, but I like horse girls, so, you know, I got my bias. Good Smile Art Shanghai had 3 scale figures this month. The first one was the Zas or Zas M21 Affections Behind the Bouquet. Certainly a wedding dress style figure. I like that she comes with this table and the metal candlestick just to kind of like add to the mood. Also, of course, comes with her gun case with the gun inside of it, all fully sculpted and painted and whatnot. And even like the glass door, which I'm sure we'll get some better photos of as we turn the figure around. The first time I saw this figure from afar, like this photo right here, I didn't think her face looked that great. But when you look at her a little bit up close, I think it gets better. It's not really my favorite type of expression, just this like kind of blank stare, but I think there is enough about her face to like, especially this photo. I think she looks pretty lovely here. But yeah, the bouquet looks really pretty. The headpiece, the flowers look even more detailed than the ones in her hand. But the one standout for me is probably just like this design that's running throughout like the ribbon. I'm not sure if it's the ribbon, but you know, down her waist, on her headpiece. It's like all these streaks and, you know, lines and whatnot. It looks really interesting to me. I like it quite a bit. Even against like this white dress, because the pattern is also white, it's very noticeable. And I think it's kind of striking for that reason. Next up, we got Sime Lunar Corona version, a 1/7 scale for 21,800 yen. Not a bad price. I wish we got to see his face up close. Unfortunately, we do not. So as somebody who just does not know this character at all, I feel like I'm not really appreciating this like some other people might. It probably looks a little bit better up close though. I just feel like his face looks kind of lacking in detail compared to everything else because his outfit looks spectacular. I love the gold. I just love the color palette in general. I like that they say his chest was meticulously sculpted. You don't even really get to see that too much. But you know, the collarbone, the line down here, the neck, certainly a job well done at the very least. He's also got a little bit of a hair flow, which is nice considering kind of static otherwise, but I guess the wind is blowing and whatnot. Yeah, not a bad piece, and he's like one of 2 male characters we've talked about so far. So that's nice. And then last up from Shanghai was Vivi, which was a big surprise. This one kind of came out of nowhere. Now, they've made a Nendoroid of her, and I thought it was terrible. This sculpt looks a lot better, but I don't think it's perfect. I really, really don't like how they did her mouth. It's just like slapped on there, stamped on. Considering her mouth is open, you see her tongue, you see her teeth. They really should have sculpted at least some of that, but it looks incredibly just flat and boring. Honestly, I feel like her hair could look a little bit better from the front. I think the shading is nice on the back. If I could find a photo of it on the back, looks good. But I don't know. I feel like the colors don't really impress too much from the front of this figure. This one is a 1/7 scale at 25,200 yen, which isn't too bad considering the length of her hair, the length of her dress, and like the top portion of the it's not a cape, is it a cloak? Whatever it is, there's a lot of like flowing material, which looks nice. And there is some like subtle gradation, some wrinkles here. And I like her boots too. Very wrinkly, very glossy looking. It's nice. I feel like they could have done the paint job a little bit better. I'll give them props though for just making the figure at all, considering it was a seasonal show. And I can't imagine the demand is still there for something like this, but you know the diehards are super happy about this. Not familiar with this series at all, but Katakawa is making a Roselia figure, the light novel version. This is the special set, which includes a tapestry, if you want it, 30,000 without the tapestry, 33 with it. As for the figure itself, I really like the colors, though I can't tell if these photos are like oversaturated because they totally give the impression that they kind of crank the colors quite a bit. But if this is what the figure actually looks like, then I really love this rich shade of blue and the red used for the water down there. I really hope that stays intact because then I think this would just be a really eye-catching piece. Some might say it's a little overkill and I could totally understand that, but I do like what they're going for here. Her hair sculpt looks really nice as well. I'm kind of surprised they didn't cheap out and make the tips translucent. They just went with a nice mix of whites and like a light blue for like some added shading. I think the only downside I have with this figure is probably her face. It doesn't look bad, but I just feel like when you compare it to the illustration, it leaves a little bit to be desired. And when you look at this photo and then the figure, it definitely looks like they colored it a little bit too brightly, right? Like that vibrancy might not be intentional. So I am very curious to see how this one turns out, or at least some in-person photos at, say, the Ami Ami store or something. And then they also had their Kana figure from Oshinoko. In the past, I kind of said I didn't like this one that much, and I'm going to stick with that opinion. I feel like this could look a little bit better. Something that I've started to notice more as I started to remember more of her figures and just see like the show again, just like clips from the show, is that a lot of these figures don't really add those pink highlights like the anime has. I don't think that's a manga thing. I could be wrong there because I never read it. But a lot of these figures just don't have that. I think the only one that does is the Kotobukiya one, which kind of makes that one a bit of a highlight for me, even though I don't plan to get that one either. But yeah, I just feel like this figure feels a little bit boring. I don't really love the way it's painted. I feel like her hair leaves a little bit to be desired. Her face doesn't look as cute as I personally would want. I know that she comes with a bonus faceplate. It's not on this page because they just don't sell the bonuses on Good Smile Company for some reason, but it's a winking face, which is very fitting, but apparently the wink is on the wrong eye. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the show enough to remember which eye she winks in, so that doesn't really bother me, but it might bother you. I'll put it on screen, or I'll have it on screen right now, so you can make a decision on that. But yeah, this one's not super expensive or anything. It is 20,900 yen, which is about the same price as the other girls. I just feel like the other girls got better figures for whatever reason. Okay, so I have a lot to say about Freeing this time around, but before we get there, let's talk about some basic re-releases. So, Lucy from Fairy Tail, as well as Belle Dandy from Oh My Goddess, are getting bare leg versions. I believe both of them have the same color palette. They just took away the fishnets, 29,700 yen each. So pick these up if you're interested. We also got some of these Bunny Boy re-releases. I don't think anything has changed with these re-releases. They're only 1/8 scale, so I don't know if that bothers you or not. But yeah, not 1/4, 20,000 yen just about, if you would like to pick up either of these two. As far as new releases go, we had this Akira Todo bunny version from World's End Harem. This one is going to cost you 33,000 yen, which is nice that these figures don't seem to be 39 anymore, but the next one actually is, but it's also justified, but we'll get there. Anyway, there was another figure in this line, or rather this series, this Mira girl. Yeah, I was looking at this one earlier, forgive me. I was gonna mention that despite the fact that they gave her this gigantic ass, it bargain binned, and I'm assuming the same thing is going to happen to Akira, because I have to imagine that this series does not have the same popularity it did while the show was airing. So I feel like this one is a little too late. Maybe this character is more popular. She's got some charm points that'll certainly help her out. The size of her chest, the seductive face. You know, it's not a bad bunny by any means. Backside looks nice. But I feel like there's a lot going against this figure just because of like the release timing and the fact that her friend also just, I don't know, got destroyed on the aftermarket. If you ask me though, the best bunny figure of the month has got to be Nazumi Yakuwa from Wuma, an original character. I have no doubt in my mind that this figure is going to do extremely well. If I collected bunny figures, I would buy this one. In fact, I kind of want to buy it despite not collecting bunny figures. This one is going to cost you 39,600 yen, which I feel like is okay. You know what? When you have something like this, it's a little bit more justified. She's holding Uzis, all right? Her hair just looks like scorpion tails, like specifically the scorpions from Pokemon, like Skorupi and Drapion. It looks exactly like that to me. I love the way they're painted, just like the weird shapes that make up the design. Even like the back of her hair, where it's more traditional hair, looks really good as well. Her face is so strange. I have no idea what this expression is trying to convey. It almost feels like she doesn't have a brain, like she just lost it. But I love it. I think her tongue is also purple, but you can't tell in these photos. I'll try and find another one for you guys. But it's just weird stuff like this that adds up and makes for something very memorable. Her bunny suit is kind of traditional, but it's also spiky at the same time. I love the color too. It's a very dark bunny, mostly black and purple, but she kills it. I love the colors on this one. So yeah, I don't know what else there is to say. Her legs look so long too. I don't know if that's just like this photo. How tall is this girl supposed to be? 490. That's pretty tall, isn't it? To be fair, her bunny ears are sticking up pretty high. At least this one is. This one has like a bite taken out of it for whatever reason and is drooping way lower. But yeah, this is certainly a pretty big boost in the bunny's height. But regardless, Lovely design. Probably one of my favorite bunnies I've seen, honestly, all year, but like at least over the past few months, this is the standout. This is like a really nice way to end the year. For a bunny collector, I feel like this is a must get, but we have one more bunny figure to talk about. And it's probably not what you're thinking. This is the 02 bunny version. It's getting a re-release. And this just kind of opened Pandora's box. I don't even know what this figure means. The fact that this is getting a re-release has me asking so many questions. Alright, so just to get this out of the way, this figure is going to cost you 29,700 yen, which I feel like is a perfectly fair price for a re-release bunny figure. I don't remember how expensive this figure initially was, but I don't really have a problem with it. That's not the point of what we want to talk about right now. Why this figure is kind of shocking to me is because Freeing is known for re-releasing their figures as bare leg versions. They don't always do that, but when a character would get a bare leg version, it kind of just felt like a second chance. If you missed out, you better get this one because we're not re-releasing the other. But now, that's out the window. We don't know what Freeing is thinking anymore, because if we can get this version of 02 after they already gave us a bare leg version, who's to say they won't do that with other figures that they've made? And honestly, I don't think we're gonna get this with a ton of their figures. If the bunny isn't popular, they're not gonna bring it back. Like, they're not really gonna care. But when I think of, say, Ryuko from Kill la Kill, she got a new version. It's a red suit, not a bare leg version, but she did get a second version of her. And I feel like at some point we are just going to get that black suit version again. I just know it's gonna happen, but it might be, you know, quite a ways away. I kind of like that they gave 02 a white suit at the very least, just to make it a little different, and they kind of fixed her face a little bit as well. They gave her fangs. Some people are saying that this version also has the fangs. I can't see it at all. Maybe there's some better photos out there, but to me, it just feels like copium. You're probably better off listening to those people just because they've done more research than I have on this figure. And I really just wanted to talk about the situation, right? Like, if you were to buy a bunch of these bare leg figures, and then this suddenly happens, would that bother you? To be fair, they never said anything about this. You know, they just made bare leg figures. They made them exclusive, which also kind of lent to the idea that they don't want to make these re-releases like very widespread. And it kind of creates like a, not a panic, but just like a desire to pick up more of their figures when they initially come out. Because if you miss the first run, you might get stuck with something considered inferior with the second release. Unfortunately for us, it's all speculation. They're never going to say anything about this. What we do know is that they're going to continue making bare leg versions, because we got 2 in the same month that we got 02. So yeah, I really want to hear from bunny collectors how they feel about this situation, because I'm looking in, right? I don't really buy these things too often. In fact, I only have 2. And then whenever my girlfriend picks up, which is not too many as well, she also has 2, or maybe 3. I don't remember right now. But yeah, if you're somebody who buys a lot of Freeing figures, I would love to hear your opinion on this. All right, next up, let's talk about Kotobukiya. They had like 7, 8 figures, something like that. Quite a lot. First up, we had Juliana and Sprigatito for 13,000 yen. You know the deal with these Pokemon figures. You like the design, you're in for a good figure. Personally, I feel like the Pokemon designs fall off in this game as far as the pro tags go. The gym leader's still pretty good. You got Larry, you got Iono, solid stuff. Next up, Code Vein Sword Snuggling EO, 1/7 scale for 18,700 yen. This is actually a re-release, and she was extremely expensive at one point. So now's your second chance to grab her if you like her. I have seen these little beads around her arm just like leak over time, kind of like gold paint. So I'm not sure if they fixed that issue. That would be pretty dreadful if they didn't. So hopefully that's not the case. Otherwise, a pretty nice sculpt for a pretty fair price, especially considering how like large and how detailed that sword is. My video is not that late this month, but as you can see, sold out of Satano Diamond from Uma Musume. I really like this girl. I really like the colors. I think she is super cute, but I guess you gotta go buy her somewhere else. And I think the same can be said for our next figure, Fumika Sakisawa from Idol Master. I'm a fan of Idol Master figures. I really like a lot of them, but something about these prototype photos do not look very good. Her face looks strange. Her hair is very, like, shiny, as if it was, like, kind of cheaply done. I feel like the final product will look better than these photos, and I think the price is really good too, considering you get the table, a ton of books, the plant, the scarf around her arms, the magazine. The value's there. It needs to be touched up. It would be fine if they just kind of fix the hair, and maybe the face will look a little bit better to me on the final product. Sky Striker Ace Ray from Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I've definitely fallen off of Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as I adore the older stuff. This looks like a Type Moon background character, but she's cute enough. Nothing too spectacular for me. 16,600 yen though, pretty fair price is most of their stuff. Not much else to say about this one, unfortunately. This girl I thought was Takane from Idolmaster, but it's in fact Tsumugi Shiraishi, 19,400. A little more expensive, but you're getting this nice floral umbrella. And there's kind of like a iffy attempt at a pond down here. I don't really love how they did it. You can see some fish, like barely down there. The rocks are nice, but it doesn't really look like water to me. Other than that, I think she's pretty. I like the outfit. That fox mask is not fitting on her face though, but maybe that's the point. I don't know. Sometimes, you know, they wear like tinier articles, like the tiny hats and whatnot. So yeah, it's fitting. It's cute. I do like the design of this one a lot. Definitely a better Idolmaster figure than that one girl that we saw 2 seconds ago. And then my favorite figure from Kotobukiya this month is easily Estelle from the Kaseki series. You know, I say it every time. I've yet to play any of these games. They're on my to-do list, my bucket list if you will. But I'm very scared of how many games are in this series. I'm sure I'll love it, but I've been gaming otherwise, you know? I played Grandia 1 and 2 this year. I played Persona 5. Like, I'm still into JRPGs, but when there's like 9 of them, it's hard to jump into. This figure looks fantastic, and the price is very fair at 17,500, maybe cheaper elsewhere. She does have a bonus faceplate. I believe she's kind of got her mouth open, maybe angry. I'll put it on screen right now. It's not a necessity for me. Honestly, my partner called dibs on this one anyway, so I'm not buying it, but I don't think she necessarily cares about the bonus faceplate. It's a nice addition. I don't think it's one to go crazy over, but I love this pose. I love the way her hair is flowing out. I think this is just like a really iconic, just like pose for her, but again, ignorant on the series, but she's great. Staves are cool weapons too, you know? I don't think I have any in my collection, probably. Whatever. Either way, there is one more Kotobukiya figure to talk about. It's not on AmiAmi. It's this girl. Her name is so hard to remember. It's Hyakumen Tenbara Salome. This is an exclusive. I'm sure you can buy it somewhere, but I don't remember where. But she looks really pretty. I think you get both faceplates by default, so I think no matter where you buy her from, you're good. But she's already limited, so those are like most likely proxy situations where the stores are going out of their way to make sure they have stock for her. But either way, love the colors of this one, love her drill hair. Kind of disappointed that it seems like her drills are translucent. I don't think they had to be, but it's a nice color. I think they really do fit the dark red dress that she's wearing and the darker leggings, right? She looks really pretty, and the base looks nice too. And I don't think the price is bad either. It's just a matter of, you know, it's a pain in the ass to get these figures when they're exclusive, but I'm sure there's a way. If you want her, I'm sure you'll be able to get her. Alright, next up we got a batch of figures from Union Creative, everybody's favorite, Riho, as well as Akane from Megami no Cafe Terrace. 18,000 yen a pop. Not too bad. They're not wearing too much, but I do think these designs are pretty nice. I love denim. You know what? Denim shorts, I like that look. And their tank tops are kind of interesting. I'm going to assume they're trying to incorporate something from like the cafe uniform here, because I can't imagine this is what they look like working at the cafe. But maybe it is. You know, you never know with these anime. But either way, I like the look. The stripes, they're cute. Speaking of denim, we got the Supersonico White Cat version. I'm not sure if there's another color of this figure. I haven't seen it if there is, but 19,200 for a Sonico figure is really not that bad. She's also pretty tall, 270 millimeters. I'm not sure if there's a scale listed. It doesn't seem like there is. But yeah, you got the denim jacket and the denim shoes, a little kitty cat bowl. Her, like, bra, pretty sure it's a bra and not like a bikini, but it's got like a lacy design on it. Same with the panties. A little key and lock over here, kind of looking like Mickey Mouse for whatever reason. And some really thick rims for her glasses. It's cute. You know what? Like this design too. I think the only downside might be the hair, mostly like these strands in the front of her face. I think the back looks okay, but little iffy about those little strands down here. They kind of look like tentacles to me. But if you can get past that, if that doesn't bother you, and as you can see, you could take off the glasses if you don't like it, but I kind of like the look of the glasses. Yeah, not a bad deal either. Seems like Union Creative is getting pretty good with their prices. I feel like this is fair, even though she's really not wearing that much, so you don't need that much plastic to sculpt this. But either way, I like it. Momo from Televeru, Darkness in a nurse uniform. Lala definitely got a figure like this. Not sure if I ever talked about it. It's just, you know, very self-explanatory. I like the panty line. I'm sure Lala had that too. I don't think I noticed it if I talked about that figure, but it's way more obvious here because Momo's hair is like super short, so there's nothing blocking it. But, you know, other than that, cute. Gonna cost you $19,200. I feel like that's not as good of a value as, say, Sonico, even though you get the stool down here, because it's a really basic looking stool. And the nurse outfit is like one flat pink color, and her hair is short. So, like, what exactly am I paying for here? Miki from The Idolmaster. I have not seen a new Miki figure in quite some time. Now, this is definitely more of like a cute race queen figure. Most of the time, they're trying to be sexy. It makes sense, right? But I don't know, any way you look at this figure, even though she's got the midriff, the skirt, the small top, it's cute. Like, I can't see it any other way. Really love the way her hair is kind of just being like pushed up with the visor. It's not like it's styled any differently, but just that like one, you know, little thing is making me really like her hair. And you know what? The color palette too, the orange creamsicle vibe going on here, that's just like always good. I love orange and white. Also, orange creamsicle is just a good ass snack. So there you go. Nice figure. This one costs 18,670 yen, which I think is fair. Unfortunately, as somebody who's trying to help you guys get deals every now and then, most Idolmaster figures, or just idol figures in general, do hit the bargain bin. And I feel like this one's gonna be no different. But if you want to support the girl, I don't think this one's bad. Alright, I guess we're done with Union Creative. Next up is Furyu with Ito Life, a 1/7 scale for 24,200 yen. This is a VTuber, I'm going to assume independent. I've never heard of her before, and that might be contributing to that price point. But I'm not really sure what the theme is of this character. She's wearing a maid outfit. She's like jotting something down. Maybe she works at a cafe or at the farm where she's serving milk. Maybe that's the joke because her boobs are big. I don't know. She's also pretty bottom heavy if I can find photos from the back, you know, stuff like that. But interesting design. Love the freckles. Not sure if she's supposed to be a cowgirl. Looks more like demon horns if you ask me. But I guess it doesn't matter, you know? Like, if you like the character design, might be a figure for you. I love thick eyebrows, so she's got that too. I think it's a little pricey though. I think this would be better at around 20,000, but that's just me. Punishing Gray Raven number 21 Solar Frost version, 24,750 yen. See, this got a lot more going on. You got this real intricate base, dived into the ocean, swimming with the robots, some coral, there's the starfish over there, lots of bubbles kind of bursting out. It's a really pretty concept. I feel like this girl is so pale though, and like the environment around her just like matches her colors too much, where I feel like some of it's a little lost on me. I don't really love this color palette. Really like the idea. The outfit's good, the swimsuit's cute, the face isn't bad, the hair just kind of like flowing in the water. And I like the little robots, especially the one, like the crawler in the front, if I can find him again. The starfish almost looks like a bow, makes it look cute, at least to me. So yeah, I wish the colors were a little different on this girl, but if it's like super accurate, then it's fine, just not to my liking. But yeah, pretty nice. MTV Miku, cause why not? Honestly, a match made in heaven if she ever came over here. I feel like this version of Miku is very basic though, with the only real fun element of this redesign being the wires that are twisting around her twin tails. I like that, because they're like audio plugs. You can plug them into the base, or you would if the base had any functionality whatsoever. But even like the knobs are kind of just like either painted on or they're a decal. I'm not exactly sure. I wish they actually took the time to sculpt some of this on here. You know, you don't need everything, but some of the knobs actually being sculpted on there, even if it costs a little bit more, I think would have made the figure just look that much more impressive. Novel, but kind of basic at the same time. Emma from Goddess of Victory Nikkei, a 1/7 scale for 24,200 yen. A little pricey, but I do feel like this figure is more worth it than Ito Life if I were going to make a comparison from the exact same company at the exact same scale. Just because there's more like, I don't know, pouches and bags and details on her outfit. The hat is very cute, the ribbon by her hair, and they're doing something kind of interesting. I don't know if this is just part of her character design, but this like blue tint in her hair. There's just like this weird blue lighting that's in every single photo, which implies that it would be part of the figure. Is that part of the character design? You guys are gonna have to fill me in because I've never played this game. I know very little of it, but I don't really know what's going on. I like it, but I can't tell what it's supposed to be. Yeah, either way, it's a nice sculpt. I like how she's lifting the dress just to make this one a little bit more provocative, I guess. Certainly a little bit more sexy, showing off the leg. A little bit more of the butt is possible to see now. Maybe I should just go look up this character. Hold on, real quick. Okay, so the Wikipedia. We got a photo here. It is kind of there, but is this the image that they're referencing for the figure? I don't know. It's in every photo. All right, I guess it's authentic. All right, next up we got Sonic Soldier Borgman, a Nice Farm Memories style from Wave, 19,800 yen. I really appreciate getting a figure of a character from the 80s, but this is really off-looking to me. I don't want to say off-putting. I feel like that's rude, but there's something about this head on this body that's just not working for me. It's almost like a head from the 80s and a body from like the modern day. I don't know, maybe that's not making any sense, but I feel like something's wrong here. Like, I don't believe this is her that I'm looking at right now. None of these photos really look super attractive to me, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the point. Even with their butt just peeking out completely. What is this supposed to be? Is this like, you know, a bad cropping? Why would that even be there? It's there too. Can I get a photo of the back of her head? I think that's just a mistake. That's gotta be a mistake. Maybe it's the base too. Like, I like the fact that it comes with like a plush base, but I don't like the color. Don't really feel like it fits her. Doesn't fit the yellow strings of the bikini. None of this figure is really working for me, which I think is a shame. Okay, there you go. Sonic Soldier Borgman getting a new figure. Yeah, this one's just a little disappointing. Blue Archives Yuka is getting a 1/7 scale from Wanderer for 18,700 yen, which I think is a great price if the quality were to match that. But unfortunately, I feel like I'm looking at a premium prize figure. It's not terrible, but I feel like it's not meeting the standards of like a scale figure these days should be. Everything from like the paint job of her outfit, her face, the guns, everything just falls a little flat. I don't think she looks really pretty. I don't think any part of the paint job impresses me, and it's just a little boring to look at as a result. I guess her legs look okay, but we're not buying the figure just for legs. It could be a reason you like a figure, but there's gotta be more to it than just legs, usually. And I think this is a case where they should have spent a little bit more time cooking this one up so that it would look better. It would look prettier. But as a result, I feel like this isn't going to satisfy Yuka fans. I'm not even somebody who plays Blue Archive, and I feel like something is off here. And I think that's a shame, because I'm pretty sure I was asking for a scale figure of her when I was looking at her Nendoroid or something. So yeah, I hope she gets another figure, because I think this one isn't it. Hatsune Miku Senbon Zakara 10th Anniversary Version, a 1/7 scale from Design Coco for only 16,280 yen. I feel like I talked about this figure ages ago in that community post I made, but I guess it's only been a month, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I don't know how they priced this figure so low. One thing I thought about after making that initial post is that her colors are a bit more saturated than they probably should be. Normally with this design, the colors are a bit more muted, a bit duller, just to kind of make it feel a little bit older, I guess, from like an older era. But she is like super colorful here, which might not be a problem to you. And it's not really a problem to me, but just to make it more authentic, I kind of wish they dulled it or like pulled it back just a little bit. But either way, the colors do look nice if you only look at it like in a bubble. Her face is super cute. I love the color of her eyes. Her twin tails have this like nice twist to them as they're flowing about. And they were very reserved on the amount of like translucent plastic they used for her hair. Pretty much just reserving it for the tips, which I think is the right call. If you're gonna do it, I think that's the way to go. And the base, you know, it's not like super intricate, but it's better than a lot of other bases considering this figure is so cheap with the gate and the stone walkway and the sakura petals. It's a really damn good deal. I struggle to think of a better deal in this video than this figure. Maybe there is one, but this is certainly in the top 3. Also from Design Coco is Rem in a spacesuit for 21,780 yen. Because when all else fails, shoot Rem into orbit. Now, this doesn't look bad. I feel like this kind of design fits prizes better. Like having to pay a premium price for Rem in a spacesuit's kind of weird. But I do like the kitty cat ears on the helmet. I'm sure that's intentional, just to make it look cuter. And the asteroid looks like it lights up. Certainly in these 2 photos, that's what they're trying to imply. But the page doesn't mention a light up feature, so I'm not exactly sure. Another thing is that you can actually take the helmet off, which I kind of like the look of more, if only because her face does look pretty. And I think the helmet kind of obscures it a little bit. Also, the helmet still gets to be a part of the figure if you take it off of her head, since she gets to hold onto it with her right hand. So I don't think you're losing that much if you take it off of her head. And personally, I think it's the better look, but you might disagree. Maybe it doesn't make sense anymore because she's in space and her helmet's off and she would die. So, you know, whatever. Also, as you can see, her suit is extremely tight, outlining her entire body, the butt, the dimples on her back. I feel like the suit might be a little too tight for that, but whatever. Sexy spacesuits, because that's what we needed. Not a bad figure. I'm just kind of joking around with this one because it's just kind of funny in concept, but it's not like they did a bad job with it, so it's all good. I don't really know what to think about these next 2 Kobayashi Dragon made Kana 1/7 scale, as well as Toru, both around the 14,000 to 15,000 range. I feel like if they're that close in price, then Toru is absolutely the better deal considering she's a taller character and her dragon tail is massive in comparison. So I don't really agree with this price point. You get a pillow, but that can't cost that much at all, let's be real. Yeah, it's like cute. They're cute figures, both of them, but the art styles don't really fit. In my opinion, they don't really look like the anime. They don't really look like the manga. So I'm not sure who the artist is behind these figures, but it's not really working for me. If I had to go with one, I think Toru is the better figure just because the price value is better, and I think she just looks a little bit more on point, if that makes sense. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. These 2 bunny girls, Rin and Shia, are so goddamn cheap. 6,400 yen by Bear Panda. Never heard of that company. Honestly, when I see figures this cheap, it does make me worry a little bit. Like, what corners are being cut to make this possible? Because the sculpts don't look that bad. I do think, you know, the hair, it's not the greatest. The faces could look a little nicer, but it's so cheap that I feel like, you know, it's understandable. You also get these, like, big metal counters. I don't really like the looks of them, but it certainly adds to the value, right? Even if they have this like gross industrial look to them. But you get some like alcohol as well, some glasses, which is nice. You know what? Not bad at all. And considering it's Asanagi, the character designs are pretty good. And apparently these are cast offable, but like forced cast off. You're probably gonna ruin the figures if you take off the clothes. But considering the price, might not be that bad of an idea. There are some bonuses, which are very strange. I had no idea what this was trying to say, but down here, it says you get an alternate face part with following eyes. So does that mean when you look at the figure, it's like always gonna look at you? You know, like a painting, like one of those special paintings? This is odd. You know what? I've seen that before on figures, but usually it's not like a mass-produced figure. It's like a garage kit kind of thing, like a home project, but this is like a little different. You know what? A little strange. Not gonna say I love that idea, but I do want to see how these turn out. because my god, like 43 bucks for a 1/6 scale, by the way, not even a small figure, only a little bit off from the 1/4 scale. So, I don't know. Hopefully these turn out decently. I don't like to be cynical, but it's too good to be true. It's like one of those situations where you can't really believe what you're potentially buying. I don't know if this is a new thing, but I started to notice Aniplex figures for sale on AmiAmi, which is only a good thing because most of the time, if not all of the time, Aniplex figures are exclusive. So just having another place to buy them is great. I'm pretty sure this Marin figure went up for pre-order like months ago. Could be wrong on that, but I could have sworn I talked about this one already. But I wanted to point it out in case you didn't know. But I do want to talk about Bocchi the Rock Hitori Goto 1/7 scale for 22,000 yen. Not a bad price if you ask me. And honestly, I want to say that this is probably her best figure, but I am a little worried about it. Like, I kind of want it as a big fan of the show, but the way she's being suspended in the air is by this like one metal rod, and like her feet aren't touching the ground at all. So the entire figure is relying on this one rod to keep it in place forever. And I don't know if I trust that. It really depends on how heavy the figure is, as well as the guitar. So I don't know if I should take the risk. I want to, because I think this is, as I said, her nicest figure so far. It's the most lively one. I like the expression on her face, how she's kind of like shocked and in the moment of what's going on. And the base itself is really like elaborate. Got all these like red metal beams holding up the lights, the neon lights with her name and the stars. It's a really fun setup. And out of all the figures I've seen that include her guitar, I'm pretty sure this is the only one with like actual strings molded on. So you gotta give it credit for that. But there was also this Hitori figure from Soooooo. I skipped this one earlier because I wanted to talk about it now, for 16,800 yen, which is way cheaper than I thought it was initially going to be. That being said, I don't really see the value in this figure, considering I think there are better options elsewhere, even like 1 second ago when we were talking about Aniplex's version. You know, you look at this guitar, it looks fine at a glance. They skipped the strings, don't know why, it's a little lazy. The pose is okay, it's kind of cute. I think the best part about the figure is all like the amps and the pedals and the wires on the base itself. It's just nice that they actually included that on one of her figures, and it's not like a lazy attempt either. You know, I kind of complained about the MTV Miku figure, but hey, there's some knobs on this one. Looks like an actual attempt. I like it. The one thing though that I think does make this figure kind of worth getting, you know, if you're interested in it in the first place, is this faceplate, but it's not in the AmiAmi gallery. I don't know if this is exclusive. I just love it when scale figures get wacky, goofy faceplates. It just makes me happy, because you only really get that with, you know, Nendoroids, Figma, Figuart, stuff like that. And this one's just super fitting for her. She's crying, she's got the scribbly eyes. I love it. I really do. Probably not enough to pre-order this figure. I think there are better options out there. I think even with Good Smile Company's very like reserved figure of Hitori, you're still gonna get something better there for a better price just because the quality will be nicer than Soooooo. But we got a bunch of options now, and I'm sure we'll get more in the future. Right now, I think Aniplex is winning with their very lively, expressive Hitori, but, you know, there's something for everybody out there, and there's only gonna be more. Man, what the hell is up with these prices? Girls Frontline UMP 45 Corona Sunset version, as well as the UMP 9 Bee's Knees version. Love the name, but 27,690 yen is kind of outrageous if you ask me. Now, if you don't remember, you don't know, HobbyMax is the company that makes those Radio Eva figures, the streetwear style figures, and part 2 was priced at around 20,000 yen. Which I felt like was a sweet spot, the perfect price for those figures and the quality that they delivered. But now they're asking like 7,000 to 8,000 yen more, and I'm not seeing like a dramatic increase in quality. They look very similar. Honestly, if you ask me, I think they're a little less interesting. The colors aren't as like, I don't know, eye-catching. I think the fashion is on point. They look great wearing these clothes, but I just don't really feel compelled to jump into this line. Maybe if I knew Girls Frontline, I would feel differently about them. But I don't know. I don't feel like they're hitting the same strides as they did with the Eva characters. Maybe, like, this license is just more expensive. Can't say for sure. Or maybe they're just getting cocky because those figures did extremely well. Now they want to ask more money for these figures from a new line. Can't say for sure. Have no idea what they're thinking over there, but I do find these prices kind of disappointing. Also from Hobby Max, so this is specifically Hobby Max Japan, Osamu Dazai Formal Attire version. This is the deluxe edition, but you can get a regular edition if you don't want the extravagant base for 10,000 yen less, which I feel like is a pretty significant discount, and I do appreciate them for doing that. His face is kind of funny on this figure. I don't know how accurate that is. I feel like it's goofy, but I'm not going to say it looks bad. The expression is just kind of funny to me. But the star of the show is certainly the base. All those like gold photo frames and the flowers around the bottom of the base. There's a bunch of jewelry, this like really fancy dress. Certainly feels like you're getting your money's worth with this one if you like this base. All these wonderful presents for a very special someone. Kind of nice too that this base, while it has so much stuff, doesn't seem that big either. Like they've definitely condensed it into a very reasonable size, and I like that. I guess we'll just keep talking about some male figures now. We have the Ichiban figure from Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza 7, from Digsta, 8,500 yen. I don't like this one. I liked the Majima from last month. I thought the Kiryu looked a little bit off. You know, I haven't played 7 yet. I'm only on Kiwami 2. Taking my sweet-ass time with the series, but I know Ichiban. He's a lovable guy. I don't see a lovable guy in this face. He looks like he spent too much time in jail. He got very accustomed to that lifestyle. Looks a little gross, a little cracked. I do like the bat. I like how shiny it is, wrapped in barbed wire. That's a fun accessory for sure, but I don't know about this one. I feel like it's kind of ugly, which is a shame. We also got a Beastars figure, Pina from Mega House, everybody's favorite sheep boy, for 16,000 yen. A really fair price. I don't think this is a super large figure. A lot of these like non-scale Mega House figures usually are on the smaller side, but he's still 215 millimeters and he's like leaning against the base, which I believe is supposed to be like the school fountain. So it makes sense why you wouldn't be super tall, but maybe expect him to be a little bit smaller than you might think. Usually that's a good safe bet when it comes to Mega House figures that don't have a scale. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of annoyed at this. This figure is already closed. This is Master Asia from G Gundam. This is a re-release, a slight like repaint as well. I like what they've done, where it kind of looks like he's in front of a sunset, because there's like this orange glow on his clothes, which looks really nice. The original figure definitely didn't have that. And the base looks cool too. That might be the same base as the original figure. It's pretty much the exact same, except for like a few tweaks here and there. But yeah, this is a figure that my partner really wanted because she grew up with G Gundam and she loves this guy. And I told her to buy it, and I'm pretty sure she didn't. And I was like, all right, if you don't, I'll get it for you for like your birthday or something. But then there was no follow-up on that. So it's just like, well, crap, now the figure's sold out. And it's going to be a pain in the ass to get this guy again, because the older version was a pain in the ass to buy, because I guess nobody bought it. So it's just surprising that they made him again in the first place. I feel like with stuff like this, if you've been hunting for a figure forever, and I have, because I was trying to help her out, and I just could not find this dude's original release, you should just buy it. You shouldn't worry about like saving money in that case, because it's really not even that expensive either. So yeah, that's annoying. Let's talk about the next figure now. Okay, next up we got two Altair figures, so these are most likely the best male figures we're talking about this month. Arjuna and Karna from Fate Grand Order. Now, I was genuinely surprised, in a good way, that their prices were lower than expected. But at the same time, I didn't realize they were going to be 1/8 scale when I saw them initially, which I do feel is a little disappointing, though I kind of understand it with Karna. When I think of, say, my BB Moon Cancer figure that I unboxed on this channel, it's gigantic, but it's a 1/8 scale, and the reason they did that is because her hair is so goddamn big that figure would cost way too much money if they made it a 1/7 scale or larger. But it does bug me that they keep going back and forth between the scales in the Fate series, because you can't line them all up next to each other without it looking a little weird now. But with Karna, He's got that like gigantic cloak. It's like a flame, shadowy cloak. Looks awesome, but that piece is already probably pretty heavy. You can see it's supported by a big metal rod and an extra support in the back over there. There might be another one over here just because of how thin it starts to get as it dissipates and whatnot, but it is an issue, and I feel like there's less risk if he's only a 1/8 scale. And I've definitely talked about them extensively in the past, so I don't really know what else I need to add here. I guess I never realized this dude's got like a tail, kinda. That's interesting. Also, his orb in his hand. I think when we saw it at an event, it kind of just looked like a giant light bulb, but now you can see it's almost like a planet in a way. It almost looks iridescent, like the colors kind of just like shifting a little bit as you turn it around. I'm not sure exactly how they've painted that. Yeah, I don't even know which one looks better. They're both pretty similar in terms of quality. I think Karna has that like bigger impact, but I also feel like there's a bit more complexity to Arjuna's design and his weapons. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think you could go wrong with either of these figures if you're into these designs. I feel like as of late, I've wanted to get more Fate figures. Like, if I'm gonna jump into any series that I'm not necessarily following at all times, I love the anime, I just don't play the mobile game or anything like that, and there's so many spin-offs I've definitely never touched. But, yeah, I feel like Fate might be the one I start collecting more for. This cloak is so cool. It doesn't even matter that it's being suspended by so many rods. It still looks awesome. Like, I'm just impressed at the price tag on this one because this is a massive piece of fucking plastic, you know? But, okay, we've talked about these two enough. Look forward to them next year in November. I guess Arjuna's the same. Let's, yeah. Oh, no, October for Arjuna. A little sooner. I'm sure they'll get delayed, at least a little bit. But yeah, standouts of the month. Easily. I think that might be it for the male figures in this video. A very short-lived section, but what can you do? Next up, we got Flare, who I don't think we've talked about today, with their Alice figure from Nikkei. This figure is cute, like super cute. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I do, and I really don't need to get into another series like this, but I kind of like this one. Very similar to that Super Bunny girl. I keep forgetting if they have the same artist. I should really burn that in my memory because I keep talking about them. But the design is so gosh darn similar. The pink skin tight suit, the little jacket on top barely covering her, only really the sleeve stops right at the chest. It's got the sneakers. Even the hair is kind of similar, I think. But I like Alice's hair way more. These like curly ponytails. In fact, that might be why I like this design so much and why I kinda want it, even though I really shouldn't get into Nikkei. I think the one thing that kind of sucks about this figure is this seam line running through the hips. I don't know why they had to place it right there. It's very distracting. It's super noticeable. So hopefully they touch that up, because otherwise I think this is fantastic looking and super cute. So yeah, I'll keep it on the radar, but you know, really don't need to fall down another rabbit hole. Alright, before we get to the last few figures where I have a little bit more to say about them, let's just run through some very quickly so you know they're coming out. We have the Raphtalia Bikini Armor from Seoul International for 17,800 yen. Very fair price. I feel like this figure looks a lot better than I initially thought it did at some event she was shown off at first. It looks perfectly fine. I don't have that much to say about it though, but initially I thought it was kind of bad, and right now I think it's kind of good. Next up, we had this Formidable, the Lady of the Beach version for 21,000 yen. I'm going to be honest, it's like the opposite of Raphtalia. I feel like this figure has only looked worse as it got painted. I feel like a lot of that comes down to her hair. I just don't think they did a good job with it, whether it be the way they painted it, and it kind of looks a little bit too large in the front of her head. It's a little distracting. I don't think she looks very pretty as a result. Almost looks like she's wearing a wig because it's too much hair up there. But I don't know. I feel like this figure could have used a little bit more time, just like giving it an extra coat of paint, some extra shading here and there. But right now it falls a little flat. We actually got two Nun figures, both on the saucier side. Both are cast-offable. 26,000 yen for this Sister Succubus version from Leisurely, complete with the womb tattoo as the succubuses do. And then there was also this one from Vibrastar, Olivia. And I feel like this one is probably the better buy. 23,470 is a great price. She has a 1/6 scale, whereas the Succubus was a 1/7 scale. The base here is much more elaborate, a stone staircase with a carpet running down it. And unlike that Succubus figure, I don't know why I'm crapping on it so much, but with these Vibrastar figures, you get optional parts, whereas the Succubus does warn you down here where you could like ruin the figure, you could damage it if you take off the parts, but with Olivia, you actually just get like a separate chest piece, a hem piece down here. There's some extra faces which do look nice. I'm not sure if I'm gonna see them as I scroll very quickly, but yeah, there's like 3. So you're getting all of this stuff for a cheaper price and a bigger size. So if you were going to get either of these 2 figures, this would be the one that I recommend. And then we had Vertex doing a very similar thing, making a lewd figure, 1/6 scale Mercedes for 24,300 yen. Very clearly an Asanagi design. The Dark Elf Village line, I guess there's a few of these at this point. There is an exclusive version where you get a bonus faceplate and some like optional legs, because this is like a feet figure. It's going to cost you like 4,000 yen more though, so keep that in mind. And it also comes with like a nicer base, but they never show it on this page for whatever reason, but they mention it down here. I'm pretty damn sure this is a cast-off as well. I think most, if not all of these figures are, but for YouTube reasons, we're not going to go there. Here we have Yuna and Sayuri, a pair of 1/6 scale figures from Gentleman for 47,000 yen. You can actually buy them individually. You'll miss out on that bigger sandy base if you do it that way. And with this special set, you actually get individual bases as well. So it's nice they actually thought about that. As you can imagine, this is another cast-off set of figures. I think they did a great job with their faces. I hope the final products look this nice, because I think both of them look very attractive. And of course, they did a good job with their body sculpts as well. Love their heart sunglasses. Those are very cute. Not a bad set. In fact, I'd say it's pretty good. Mythos had 2 figures this month. The first one was the Arknights Unikets. Might have said that wrong. Correct me in the comments. Dress version, 1/7 scale for 15,000 yen. Fantastic price. Very cool character design. She's like a snake girl. Her tail is like slithering through her legs and down onto the floor. I love the visual. Really nice sculpt. She looks super sexy. Her face is very pretty. Don't like the chair though. I feel like it's kind of out of place. It doesn't fit like the formal fancy vibe that the rest of the figure has. As fancy as a snake tail could possibly be. But you know what I mean, jokes aside, you got like the golden heels and like the band over here, the slick black dress, and then you have this like kinda, in my opinion, ugly chair, you know? I don't really like it too much, but everything else, her character design especially, is super appealing. Great stuff. Wish she was sitting on a different chair. That's it. They also put up the Honor of Kings Mermaid Doria, a 1/7 scale for 26,000 yen, which is much more money, but there is much more going on here, and she looks gorgeous. A very pretty piece. Lots of translucencies for the water currents, which I think makes a ton of sense. Even her hair seems to be translucent, and it looks good here, especially with like the waves being a different color, like at the tips of her hair. That's pretty smart. Great character design. Lots of pearls throughout the costume too. And like the fins and like the dress have this like pearlescent paint to it. Very obvious as you go down the figure. I really like her tail, the purple portion. That looks beautiful. And then her fin looks even better. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like an aurora effect. You know what I mean? It looks so goddamn pretty. And if those little pearls throughout the dress weren't enough, you have this gigantic one on the bottom of the base. This is definitely a stunner. This pattern's pretty cool too. I didn't notice that the first time. The paint job's pretty insane. I think that's my takeaway from this figure. The more you look at it, the more little details you find, the shells and the coral, and it's such a vibrant, lovely piece. It's super impressive. It doesn't fit with like any figure in my collection. Doesn't really fit my vibe of like what I like to collect either, but I'm super impressed. Here we have another wonderful figure. This is the Azur Jean Bart First Snow Upon the Cutlass Edge version. 1/7 scale from Wings Inc. for 28,300 yen. Yeah, it's another expensive one, but you're basically getting an entire room with this figure, so I think it makes sense. 2 giant katanas. Her kimono looks beautiful, that like giant rose pattern on the ribbon in the back. It's really pretty stuff. I think the only thing that kind of bugs me a little bit, I don't think it ruins the figure, is that this figure really feels like you're only supposed to view it like this, because if you turn her around, her face doesn't look as good. It starts to look a little iffy, but again, I don't think it's a big deal. This looks fucking awesome. She's beautiful, and she looks badass. It's like a perfect balance between the two. The only thing that you should really be concerned about with this figure is how much goddamn space it's going to take up and how much this is going to cost to ship to you. I'm very surprised that this is not a single shipment figure on AmiAmi. I would not be surprised if they changed their mind, but I don't actually know if they're allowed to do that, so I guess we'll see. Here we have another figure from the Kiseki series, this time Elisa Reinford from Q instead of Kotobukiya for 23,180 yen. Certainly a price increase compared to Estelle, but, you know, Q is just more expensive in general. That being said, this figure looks phenomenal. It's very simple though. I don't really have that much to say about it. I don't know, I feel like she's very pretty and the way they handled her clothing is just top notch, right? I also love bows. I feel like bows are such an underrated weapon, and I just really like the design of hers on this figure. It could just be the color combinations of this design too, and the way that Q painted and shaded them. Everything is just like so up my alley with this design that I can't help but love it. Spirit Tail had one figure go up for pre-order this month. This is the Blue Archive Shiromi Iori 1/7 scale for just about 25,000 yen. Now, a couple of things to note here. This figure, in my opinion, looks fantastic. I love it. But I can't help but feel a little bummed out that they kind of simplified her base. You might recall that there used to be more down here. I definitely, in my head, can remember a couple of like junkyard tires, and they're just no longer here. They're just absent. And instead we have this like very simple rocky terrain, a couple of bullets on the ground, some broken pieces of wood, and a little bit of grass. It doesn't look bad, but it looked better when it was a prototype, and I don't know why they did this. Now 2, she has a bonus faceplate, and it's adorable. She's got this like shocked expression. Absolutely love it. 3, and this is probably the most important part for me, I actually really like how they handled her hair. And if you know me, you watch any of my videos outside of this one, you know that I'm always complaining about Spirit Tail hair, especially when it comes to Miku figures. And as you could see with Iori, her twin tails are massive. And yet, they actually mixed matte with translucencies instead of making the entire thing translucent. And I know I'm a broken record with this shit, but this looks so much better. They actually made a pretty good hair sculpt this time, and I gotta give them their props. But yeah, that's the big takeaway from this release, at least for me. And as it stands, a lot of these Blue Archive figures do sell out, and then they become hard to find. I don't know Iori's popularity. I know she has another figure, so I have to assume if she's getting multiple, that she's probably pretty popular. And the Neru figure from Spirit Tail has been sold out for a while, so the same might happen with Iori. Though granted, the Neru figure is a bunny, and that kind of makes people want to jump on it more than like the standard design of a character, but we'll see. I love the way that they painted her. I love that you get 2 different expressions with her that are very different. One that looks a little badass, and one that's very cute and shocked and nervous. It's lovely. So yeah, a big thumbs up for me. Really wish they kept the full base with her, but even then, I feel like this is one that I'm gonna at least keep my eye out on. Alright, all that's really left to talk about is Apex. They had 3 figures in November. The first one is this League of Legends KDA Akali 1/7 scale for 18,350 yen. Her hair looks crazy. I don't know if that's how it typically is, but the fact that it's like sticking up in a big spike, I kind of like that. She does wear a mask, and you could take it off, but I went through this gallery earlier, and you don't really get a good close-up of her face. It might be elsewhere. Very toned stomach, very shiny jacket, very poofy too. I love the design of that. This figure is also implying that it lights up. It might be a glow-in-the-dark thing. I feel like that would make the most sense as I go through these images. It's a cool design though, and for a cheap price too, considering it's like pretty stylish, and she's wielding some cool weapons too. Kind of looks like a scythe or a sickle. The only thing I don't really love is the shape of the base. I feel like that's kind of taking up more space than it needs to. The only thing that might make that better is if this was part of a line and more of the characters started getting like figures like this and then they line up with each other, but I don't know. But a nice one for sure. Next up is the Remelia Scarlet Blood version, a 1/7 scale for 31,360 yen, a very expensive figure as far as Apex goes. Usually when they price them like this, the figure is larger, or it has like a very involved base, or there's like tons of special effects. But this figure is pretty simple in comparison. But I don't think that price point is bad, because you're paying for the details, right? You're paying for the paint job, the really like finely crafted sculpt that this figure is. And I'm just gonna say right now, this is not something that I like. It's a little bit too dark for me, a little bit too gothic-y. I don't even know if that's a word, but you know what I mean when I say that. It's just not my kind of vibe at all, despite loving Toho. And even when I compare it to, say, the Toho Vania figures, those are very dark, and they got a gothic vibe to them, but they're just more stylized in a way that I like. They're just more striking and cool to me, whereas this has this, like, creepy, unnerving vibe, which is awesome if you're into that, but I'm just personally not. The one thing that I don't like about these photos is that sometimes her hair just looks fake. Like, it doesn't look like it's actually sculpted, but then as you get closer, you start to see the details, how they're texturing the hair, which is an extra step that a lot of figures aren't going to do. But yeah, it's really, really well done. Just how like dirty her dress looks, how it's kind of like stained in blood almost, how she's holding these IV bags with blood inside of them. It has like a doll-like quality to it. I think that's why I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it makes it that much more effective. And also just like the design of her dress being like almost like a cage. And you get to see her really thin, sickly looking legs. It's so odd. I think this might be Apex's first time making a Toho figure, so have no idea what the reception of this one is going to be. Pretty sure this was a garage kit, and they decided to adapt it. So it's nice that they picked something so unique and unlike any other figure of Vermelia on the market right now. And last up, we had the Honkai Impact 3rd Alicia Hersher of Human, Ego Because of You version, a 1/7 scale for 33,700 yen. This is like the perfect example for what I was just talking about in terms of prices. This is much more extravagant and grandiose. You got the crystals on the base. Her hair is just flowing all the way to the side. There's this gigantic circle behind her with some like crystals attached to it. And her dress, or maybe their sleeves, I'm not sure, are multi-layered. They have a pattern on them. They're very widespread. The colors on this figure are super soft, very appealing. The face is lovely. It just makes sense, right? You see a figure like this, you know why it costs 33,000 yen. It's probably pretty big too. If we scroll down, we look at the size of this one, 38 centimeters with the base included. This thing is pretty goddamn tall. So yeah, you know, because of the name of this figure and like the sleeves and the headpiece, is this supposed to be like a variation on a wedding style figure? It feels like it, especially with the way she's like posed, right? But at the same time, she's wearing hot pants. Or those aren't pants, but they kind of look like hot pants. Well, whatever it's supposed to be. I like the design of them. But yeah, it really, okay. It's probably a wedding dress figure. This just makes it feel like one for sure. But even if it wasn't, phenomenal. Super cool looking figure, very pretty. Think the price is fair. Very large, very extravagant. But with that, I think we'll wrap up here. So thanks for joining me once again for another episode of the Pre-Order Roundup. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. And if you want to support me, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I'll be back very soon with another video, but until then, take care. Later.